For 19 years, my family thought I was nothing, a paper pusher, a government nobody stamping forms in some dusty basement. But I never expected them to humiliate me like this, right here in the middle of Los Angeles International Airport, with hundreds of strangers watching. My brother Garrett stood there in his polished Armani suit, waving an economy class ticket in my face like he was tossing scraps to a stray dog. His laugh echoed through the terminal. "Here you go, Ray. Middle seat, right by the lavatory. You're used to suffering, right? First class isn't for people living paycheck to paycheck." My mother turned away, embarrassed to be associated with me. What none of them knew was that inside the pocket of my cheap Walmart jacket was a code-red military ID and a C-37B military jet waiting on the tarmac with engines running just for me. They think I'm the black sheep of the family. They have no idea that a storm is about to make landfall the moment the gate guard sees my badge. My name is Ryan Roach. I am 42 years old, and this is the story of how I stopped begging for a seat at the table and built my own. The gravel crunched beneath the tires of my rusted Ford F-150 as I pulled into the driveway. It was Thanksgiving Thursday. I had just come off a 24-hour shift at the Pentagon, monitoring a developing situation in the South China Sea, running on nothing but stale coffee and adrenaline. My eyes burned, and every muscle in my body screamed for sleep. But I was here. I showed up. I always showed up. And of course there was no room for me. My brother Garrett's brand new pearl white Tesla Model X was parked diagonally across the driveway, taking up enough space for 2 cars. It sat there like a spaceship that had landed in the middle of a suburb in Virginia, gleaming offensively under the autumn sun. I sighed, shifting my truck into reverse and parking halfway onto the damp grass of the front lawn. Before I could even cut the engine, the front door swung open. Garrett stepped out holding a glass of Pinot Noir. He wasn't wearing an apron. He was wearing a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my truck's transmission. "Jesus, Ray," Garrett shouted, not bothering to come down the porch steps. "Do you have to park that heap on the lawn? You're bringing down the property value of the whole neighborhood. I think I saw an oil leak trailing you from the highway." "Happy Thanksgiving to you too, Garrett," I muttered to myself, grabbing my duffel bag. It was heavy, packed not just with clothes, but with a secure satellite phone that I prayed wouldn't ring. Inside, the house smelled of roasted sage, butter, and the suffocating scent of expectation. The Detroit Lions game was blaring from the massive 85-inch flat-screen TV, another gift from Garrett, naturally. My father was sitting in his recliner, his eyes glued to the screen, cheering as a touchdown was scored. "Hi, Dad," I said, leaning in to pat his shoulder. He didn't look away from the game. "Hey, kid, you're late. Garrett's been here since noon. He helped your mom set up the smart home system." "I was working, Dad. Shift ran long." "Working?" he scoffed, finally glancing at my wrinkled flannel shirt and cargo pants. Stamping forms at the DMV must be exhausting. I bit my tongue. The taste of copper was familiar. If only you knew, Dad. If only you knew that the forms I stamped last night prevented a naval blockade. We moved to the dining room. The table was a masterpiece of Norman Rockwell Americana. Golden turkey, mounds of stuffing, cranberry sauce, and crystal wine glasses. Mom bustled out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on an apron. She smiled at Garrett, a beam of pure sunshine, before her gaze landed on me and dimmed to a flickering candle. "Ryan, honey, try not to slouch. It makes you look defeated." We sat down. This was the moment I dreaded most. The carving of the turkey. It was a ritual that established the hierarchy of the Roach family. Mom picked up the serving fork. She skillfully sliced a massive, juicy drumstick, the dark meat dripping with flavor and fat. She placed it reverently onto Garrett's plate. "For my genius," she cooed. You need the protein, Garrett. Running a company in Silicon Valley takes so much brain power. You look thin. Is the stress getting to you? Garrett chuckled, swirling his wine. You know how it is, Mom. The IPO market is brutal right now. I've been pulling 18-hour days just to keep the investors happy. But hey, that's the price of being a disruptor. High risk, high reward. Then Mom turned to me. She sliced a piece of the breast meat. It was white, dry, and looked like chalk. She dropped it onto my plate without gravy. And for you, Ryan, white meat is better. Less fat, you know. Since your job is mostly sedentary. I looked at the dry meat. I had eaten MREs in the deserts of Kandahar that had more moisture than this. Thanks, Mom. I'm actually physically active. I run 5 miles every morning. Running away from responsibilities isn't the same as exercise, Garrett interjected, his mouth full of stuffing. The table laughed. Even Dad chuckled. I cut into the turkey. It was sawdust. I swallowed it down with water because no one had offered me wine. So, Garrett announced, clapping his hands together, as if calling a board meeting to order. Big news. Huge news. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box wrapped in gold foil. He slid it across the table to Mom and Dad. They opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a key fob, a Lexus key fob. Happy early anniversary, Garrett beamed. It's parked down the street. The 2025 hybrid SUV, heated seats, self-driving capability, the works. Mom burst into tears. Dad stood up and shook Garrett's hand, patting him on the back so hard I thought he'd dislocate a shoulder. My boy, my incredible boy, you do too much for us. It's nothing. Garrett waved a hand dismissively, checking his Apple Watch. You guys sacrificed for me. It's only right. Oh, wait, Ryan. He snapped his fingers. I almost forgot. I have something for you, too. My stomach tightened. I didn't want his charity. He pulled a crumpled envelope out of his back pocket and tossed it across the table. It landed near my water glass. I saw these in the break room at the office. One of the interns was throwing them out. It's a bundle of coupons for Costco and Walmart. Bulk rice, canned beans, stuff like that. I think some expired last week, but usually, if you make a scene, the cashiers will still honor them. The silence in the room was deafening. My parents looked at me with pity. Take them, Ryan, Dad said softly. Garrett is just looking out for you. We know money is tight with your government salary. I stared at the coupons. 50 cents off canned tuna. I don't need these, Garrett, I said, my voice steady, though my hand trembled beneath the table. Don't be proud, Ray. Garrett smirked. Pride is expensive. You can't afford it. Speaking of affording things, Garrett continued, pivoting back to the center of attention. For the actual 50th wedding anniversary next month, I've booked it. We are going to Hawaii. Mom gasped. Hawaii, all expenses paid. First class for you and Dad. 5-star resort in Maui. I'm renting a private cabana. He paused, looking at me with faux concern. Ryan, you're coming too, obviously. I'll cover your flight. Don't worry, I know the resort is pricey, so I found a nice hostel a few miles inland for you. It's clean, and there's a shuttle bus to the beach. I started to speak. I wanted to tell them. I wanted to tell them that I was just promoted to full colonel, that I commanded respect from generals, that I could buy that resort if I liquidated my assets. Actually, I have some news too. I tried, my voice fighting to be heard over their excitement. I received a promotion. That's nice, sweetie, Mom said absently, still clutching the Lexus key fob. Garrett, tell us more about the resort. And just like that, I was invisible again. 1 month later, we stood in the gleaming departure hall of Los Angeles International Airport. Sunlight streamed through the massive windows, bouncing off the polished floors. Travelers hurried past with their rolling suitcases and overpriced coffees. And there was Garrett, holding court as usual. He was dressed like he was about to close a merger rather than board a plane. Tailored navy blazer, Italian loafers, a leather carry-on that probably cost more than my first car. First class, baby. Garrett grinned, waving his boarding pass in the air. Priority boarding. Lie flat seats. Champagne before takeoff. He kissed the ticket dramatically. This is how you travel. My parents stood beside him, radiating approval. They were dressed in their best travel clothes, matching linen outfits that screamed, "We're going to a resort, and we want everyone to know it." And then there was me, standing slightly apart, wearing a plain gray hoodie and jeans. My carry-on was a battered military-issued duffel bag that had seen more countries than Garrett's passport. Garrett turned to me, that familiar smirk spreading across his face. "Oh, Ray, I almost forgot." He reached into his blazer pocket and pulled out a crumpled boarding pass. He didn't hand it to me. He held it up, dangling it between two fingers like it was contaminated. "Here you go, buddy. Seat 42E, middle seat, right next to the lavatory." He laughed, looking around to make sure the nearby travelers could hear. "I tried to get you an upgrade, but you know how it is. Economy is packed. Besides, you're used to roughing it, right? All that government work." A few people glanced over. Some smirked. Others looked away, embarrassed for me. My mother sighed. "Ryan, just take the ticket. Don't make a scene." I reached out and took the boarding pass. The paper felt cheap between my fingers. Seat 42E, the seat that said, "You don't matter." "Thanks, Garrett," I said quietly. "I appreciate you including me." Garrett clapped me on the shoulder, a little too hard. "That's the spirit, Ray. Who knows? Maybe if you're nice to the flight attendants, they'll sneak you some extra peanuts." My father chuckled. "That's my boys, always looking out for each other." I stood there, holding my economy ticket, watching my family laugh. For a moment, I considered telling them everything. The truth was a grenade in my pocket, pin half pulled. But not yet. The moment wasn't right. We shuffled toward the security checkpoint, joining the long line of travelers removing shoes and belts. Garrett, of course, had TSA pre-check. He breezed through the priority lane, tossing a wave over his shoulder. "See you on the other side, peasants," he called out. My parents laughed. I didn't. As I stood in the regular line, shoes in hand, belt in a plastic bin, I felt my phone buzz. I glanced at the screen. It was a secure message from the Pentagon. "Colonel Roach, Priority Alpha, report to Gate 14 Bravo immediately. Transport waiting." I stared at the message. Then I looked at the crumpled economy ticket in my other hand. Seat 42E. A slow smile spread across my face. I stepped out of line. "Excuse me, sir," a TSA agent called out. "You need to stay in line." I reached into my hoodie pocket and pulled out my military ID, the one with the eagle and the stars, the one that opened doors most people didn't even know existed. The agent's eyes widened. He straightened up immediately. "Colonel, I'm sorry." "Right this way." He led me to a side entrance, a door marked, "Authorized personnel only." I didn't look back at my family. I didn't need to. The secure corridor was cold and clinical, lit by harsh fluorescent lights. A young Army captain was waiting for me, standing at attention. "Colonel Roach," he said, snapping a salute. "Your transport is ready. We have a situation developing in the Pacific. General Miller is requesting your immediate presence at Pearl Harbor." I returned the salute. "Brief me on the way." We walked quickly through the corridor, our footsteps echoing. Behind us, I could hear the distant hum of the main terminal. The tourists, the families, the brothers in first class sipping champagne. None of them had any idea. We emerged onto the tarmac. The sun was blinding, reflecting off the concrete in waves of heat. And there it was. A C-37B, the military version of a Gulfstream jet. Sleek, white, engines humming with restrained power. A crew chief saluted as I approached. "Colonel, we're fueled and ready. Flight time to Honolulu is approximately 5 hours. We'll have secure comms active throughout." I nodded, climbing the stairs to the cabin. The interior was utilitarian but comfortable. Leather seats, classified briefing folders already laid out on the table, a pot of fresh coffee. I settled into my seat, buckling in. Through the small window, I could see the main terminal in the distance. Somewhere in there, my family was probably boarding their first-class cabin. Garrett was probably already reclined, accepting a glass of champagne from a flight attendant. I wondered how long it would take them to realize I wasn't on the plane. "Colonel," the pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. "We're cleared for takeoff. ETA Pearl Harbor, 1400 hours local." I leaned back, closing my eyes for just a moment. "Copy that," I said. "Let's move." The engines roared. The jet surged forward. And as we lifted off, leaving Los Angeles behind, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Freedom. 5 hours later, I stepped off the C-37B onto the tarmac at Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam. The Hawaiian sun was brutal, but I barely noticed. My mind was already in mission mode. General Thomas Miller was waiting for me. He was a tall man in his early 60s, silver hair cropped close, with the kind of weathered face that had seen every theater of modern warfare. He didn't waste time with pleasantries. "Colonel Roach," he said, extending a hand. "Thanks for getting here fast. We've got a situation." "Sir," I replied, shaking his hand firmly. "What are we dealing with?" He led me toward a waiting Humvee, speaking quickly. 2 days ago, we detected unusual cyber activity targeting the Hawaiian power grid. At first, we thought it was a routine probe. But 12 hours ago, we intercepted chatter from a group calling themselves the Blackout Collective. They're threatening to shut down all power to Oahu during the anniversary celebration. I frowned. Motive? Still unclear. Could be political. Could be financial. Either way, if they succeed, we're looking at mass casualties, hospitals without power, traffic systems down, panic in the streets. General Miller's jaw tightened. "I need you to coordinate with our cyber defense team in the FBI. You've got operational command." I nodded. "I'll need access to all intercepts and a direct line to NSA, already arranged." He stopped at the Humvee, looking me in the eye. "Ryan, this is the kind of situation that can go sideways fast. I need someone I trust. That's why I called you." I climbed into the vehicle. "I won't let you down, sir." For the next 36 hours, I didn't sleep. I barely ate. My team and I worked out of a secure facility on the base, surrounded by screens displaying code, satellite imagery, and real-time threat assessments. The Blackout Collective was sophisticated. They had embedded malware deep in the grid's control systems, set to trigger at midnight on the anniversary. If we tried to remove it directly, it would activate immediately. We had to find another way. I coordinated with NSA analysts in Maryland, FBI cyber units in Honolulu, and local utility engineers who had never seen anything like this. We worked through the night, tracing the malware's origin, mapping its pathways, building a countermeasure. At 2300 hours, 1 hour before the deadline, we were ready. "Execute," I ordered. The room held its breath. Lines of code scrolled across screens. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the lead analyst looked up, relief flooding his face. "It's neutralized, sir. The grid is secure." The room erupted in quiet celebration. Handshakes, backslaps, exhausted smiles. General Miller appeared at my side. "Outstanding work, Colonel. You just saved a lot of lives." I nodded, too tired to feel triumphant. "Just doing my job, sir." He studied me for a moment. "Your family is here in Hawaii, aren't they? For some anniversary trip?" I hesitated. "Yes, sir. They are." "Go see them," he said. "That's an order. Take 24 hours. You've earned it." I wasn't sure I wanted to see them, but an order was an order. The next morning I stood in front of the mirror in my quarters, adjusting my dress uniform. The Army service uniform. Dark blue jacket, perfectly tailored. Gold buttons gleaming. The silver eagles of my rank on my shoulders. And on my chest, the ribbons. The silver star. The Purple Heart. The Legion of Merit. Each one a story. Each one a scar. I barely recognized the man looking back at me. The lobby of the Royal Hawaiian Hotel was a different world. Pink walls, crystal chandeliers, the smell of plumeria and money. Tourists in floral shirts wandered past, cocktails in hand, oblivious to how close they had come to darkness. I spotted them immediately. My family, sitting on a plush velvet sofa near the entrance. They looked different. Smaller, somehow. Diminished. My mother was wearing a floral dress, her face pale. My father was staring at the floor, hands clasped tightly. And Garrett looked like a man who had seen his empire crumble. His shirt was wrinkled. His hair was unkempt. His eyes were red and darting around the room. When he saw me approaching, he shot to his feet, knocking over a coffee cup. "Ryan," he breathed. His eyes traveled over my uniform, the ribbons, the eagles on my shoulders. The arrogance that usually armored him was gone, replaced by something I had never seen from him before. Desperation. "Thank you for coming. I didn't think you would." "I have a flight back to D.C. in 3 hours," I said evenly. I wanted to say goodbye to Mom and Dad properly. Right, Garrett said, wiping his palms on his pants. "Listen, Ray, we need to talk about the situation." I waited. He pulled out his phone, hands shaking. "The video has 20 million views. 20 million! The board is calling for a vote of no confidence tomorrow. They're going to oust me. I'm going to lose the company. The house in Palo Alto, everything." I watched him unravel. For a moment, I felt something. Not satisfaction. Something sadder. Recognition. "What do you want me to do, Garrett?" "Make a video with me," he pleaded, stepping closer. "Just a short clip. We stand together. You wear the uniform. We smile. We say it was all a misunderstanding. A joke. A viral marketing stunt for a veterans charity. We say we did it to raise awareness. It's perfect. You save my reputation. I donate 100 grand to some charity. Everyone wins. Please, Ryan, you're my brother. You can't let them destroy me." My parents stood behind him, their eyes pleading. "Ryan, please," my mother whispered. "Your brother worked so hard. Don't let a silly argument ruin everything." I looked at them. For 19 years, their voices had controlled me. Their approval was the drug I craved. But standing there in my uniform, surrounded by everything I had earned, I realized something. The addiction was broken. "No," I said. The word hung in the air like thunder. Garrett froze. "What?" I said no. "I won't lie for you. And I won't use this uniform, a uniform that men and women have died in, as a prop to save your stock portfolio." "But I'm your family," Garrett shouted, drawing stares from nearby tourists. "You're supposed to have my back." "I did have your back," I said quietly. "When we were kids, I defended you from bullies. When you started your first company, I sent you money from my deployment pay in Iraq. I had your back for 40 years, but you never had mine." Garrett slumped onto the sofa, burying his face in his hands. "I was jealous," he mumbled. "Excuse me." He looked up, tears streaming down his face. "I was jealous, okay? You were always the tough one, the one who could handle anything. I was just the smart kid who was afraid of everything. I made fun of you because it made me feel big. If I could make you look small, then I didn't feel so weak. It was the truth. Finally." I walked closer. I didn't embrace him. I stood tall. "I know, Garrett. I forgive you." His head snapped up, hope flaring in his eyes. You do? So you'll help me? No, I shook my head. You're confusing forgiveness with rescue. I forgive you. I'm letting go of the anger. But I won't fix this for you. You broke it. You have to rebuild it. But I can't, he whispered. Then you'll fail, I said simply. And you'll learn. And maybe when you have nothing left but yourself, you'll become the man you were supposed to be before the money corrupted you. I turned to my parents. My father was crying silently. He stood and tried to salute me, his hand trembling. I'm sorry, Colonel, he whispered. I'm so sorry. Goodbye, Dad. Take care of Mom. I performed a perfect about-face. My heels clicked sharply on the marble floor. Ryan, Garrett called out, his voice fading. Where are you going? I walked out of the lobby without answering, past the valet stand, out onto the sidewalk by the beach. The sun was setting over the Pacific, painting the sky in shades of violet and burning orange. In the distance, Pearl Harbor lay silent. The USS Arizona Memorial rested beneath the waves, a tomb for over 1,000 men who never got to say goodbye to their families. I walked down to the water's edge. The ocean breeze rustled the flag on my shoulder patch. I thought about loneliness. For years, I believed I was alone, because I was the black sheep. I thought I needed to buy my way back into the family with silence and submission, but as I watched the waves crash against the shore, I realized the truth. I wasn't alone. I had General Miller. I had the soldiers who formed a wall around me at the airport. I had the men and women I served with, people who knew the real me, the scars, the grit, the loyalty, and most importantly, I had myself. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the crumpled boarding pass. Seat 42E. I looked at it one last time. Then I tore it in half, and in half again. I tossed the pieces into a nearby trash can. My phone buzzed. A secure message from General Miller. Bird is fueled. Wheels up in 60. Good work, Ryan, I typed back. On my way, sir. I adjusted my cover, straightened my jacket, and began walking. Away from the sunset, away from the hotel, toward the airfield. I walked with the long, confident strides of a man who finally knew exactly who he was, and exactly where he belonged. The black sheep had become the shepherd, and the wolves were no longer my concern. It took me 19 years to learn that DNA doesn't make a family. Respect does. I walked away to find my peace, and I hope my story gives you the courage to do the same. You don't have to set yourself on fire just to keep others warm. Before you go, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing how far this story travels and connecting with all of you from around the world. And if this story hit you right in the heart, smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Your support means everything to me.